All right, hello everybody. This is Richard Lewis doing one of my $100 patron requests for bespoke content, which you yourself can get if you sign up to the Patreon, which will be in the description. But Johnny Gazer asked for a comprehensive history about Dignitas, and he worded it, the rise and possible fall, ? Now, I could have done that. I could have gone away and researched Dignitas and put together a little video. Obviously, I'm familiar with their history and everything. But I thought, since I'm friends with the guy who founded Dignitas, you know, ODEE, who's here now, who better to talk to about it? So you're going to get about a 40-minute impromptu history about Dignitas from the guy that conceived of and then later sold Dignitas. So thanks a lot, Mike, for being here for this. Let's start with it. Why did you have the harebrained scheme to found an esports organization back in 2003?
Hello, everyone. Hello, Richard. So, yeah, basically, I started in esports in 1999, playing Duke Nukem, won my first tournament, absolutely hooked because I'd just been injured playing football. And that was my football career over at just 29 years old. So I needed to find something else. I found this thing called Wireplay, which is an online service, allowed you to go on servers and play against real people, which was like mind-blowing at the time. Absolutely hooked. And then shortly after that, Quake 3 Arena came out. First server I jumped on there, I can still see the rockets flying around in my head. It was just mind-blowing with 40-odd people just spamming rockets in a tiny little CTF map. So I went through the whole Quake thing, and it started getting big, and team houses had started popping up. I think during Quake there was a Counter-Strike team called NOA, and they were one of the first to get a team house in Sweden. Yeah. And I was like, this is gonna get so big. I just in my head I could just see it. This is gonna be a thing. What thing it was gonna be, I had no idea. It wasn't even called esports then. Whoever came up with that idea, I have no idea.
Yeah, well, I think we were like years away from that, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. So Quake was great until 2002. So basically, I played for some of the best teams in Europe. I played for Medusa, which was a German CTF team. I played for Gunzoids. I played for Knights of the Round Table, who won Barry's World. Right at the top of the game, but we were winning like £20 a month. That was it. And at the time, I had a real job. We just had our first baby. She's 23 now. That's scary. So basically, I wanted more from esports because things like CPL were about, World Cyber Games. I could just see this thing getting bigger and bigger. And I noticed, like, I was working in marketing. So I saw a couple of teams pick up sponsors. So in my head, I always like wanted to make something happen and kind of copy them. In the middle of Quake 3, I played Return to Castle Wolfenstein as well. Played for a really, really good team in that game. But that didn't work out for me until Battlefield 1942 beta came out in, I think it was 2002. And as soon as I played that, that was the same feeling as playing Quake 3 for the first time. Like, you're in a plane, you're in a boat, you're like infantry in a tank. It was just so cool. And I decided in my head, I'm going to be the best in the world at this game. That's how naive and like, that's just how I was, probably how I probably still am. So I set about doing that. So what I did, I started a team. Actually, it was called Envy. It was called Envy before Envy was Envy.
Right,
Now they've disappeared. And basically, I stole a couple of Quake players and created this Battlefield team. Mostly British players, but we were like probably 10th in Europe. We were never really good when the game came out in 2003. So into the end of 2003, probably it was autumn 2003. I didn't think my team was going anywhere, so I took the two best players and I said, look, there's a team called LCD. I won't go into what their real name was, but we'll call them LCD. And they were the best team in Europe, I thought. And I said, look, let's go to them and say, look, we're the best. We're good enough to play for you. Like, give us a trial. So this is probably earlier, like July, June, something like that. And took 3 months before they actually let us join. So we joined LCD. In that team was a person called Demon, and he was my teammate for quite a while. But we were having problems with players because that was a 10v10 game, sometimes 12v12. We didn't have good enough players. At the time as well, there was a Swedish team, probably the second best team in Europe. They were argued they were probably the best, but called Companix, and they had a guy in there called Newman. A lot of the old school esports people will know Newman from the Good Show and doing stuff like that. But he and I basically started Dignitas. And what happened was, because both teams were struggling for players, one day we just like got on a Roger Wilco, whatever it was at the time, and just had a chat for 3 hours, like, let's merge. We agreed to merge, and then we spent 2 hours talking about what should we call it. And I just said, like, Latin name with 3 syllables. That's it. That's all I said. No idea who came up with Dignitas. They were probably just Googling it, or was Google even there? Yeah, it was there just. And somebody said Dignitas, and I was like, that sounds great. What's it mean? And it means merit, prestige, honor, worth. And I was like, yes, that is it. So we became Team Dignitas. We didn't know there was a Swiss suicide clinic at the time, but like that came later. But that's literally how Dignitas formed, and we went on from that day. I think it was 9th of September 2003, and I know that off the top of my head. We were the best team in the world for 19 months. I think we went like 141 games, official games, unbeaten. Most of this was online, but we did go to some lands. We went to a few lands in Germany and Denmark and Sweden. I remember sleeping in the back of a Renault Megane in a car park, multi-story car park in Stuttgart. We flew there with all of our computers. It was a BYOC. We won the LAN, and we won giant towers that I couldn't take home because I didn't have enough room to take it, so I never got my tower. I still have my medal. But all I ever wanted to do, why I started Dig with that original team, was I wanted to win. I wanted to be the best in the world at something.
I'm guessing this is all like pre-salary, you know, I mean, because...
Yeah, nobody got paid. And for most esports teams, up until the first Meteor Makers, nobody really got paid anything until they came along and blew a couple of million euros. There was no money, but what we decided to do, because we were into like the so-called smaller games, we hated Counter-Strike at the time. All of us did. We hated it. I think we even made a video. It's like Battlefield 1942 will kill Counter-Strike. Obviously, that didn't work out.
Not quite. No.
Yeah, exactly. But I had the idea to let's go to a couple of the other small games like Enemy Territory and see if the best teams in those games will join us. And Enemy Territory, the best team in the world, joined us, and the best Call of Duty team in the world joined us. So we were quite a unit, and my plan was, okay, we've missed out on Counter-Strike, we've missed out on Brood War. If we're going to bring any money in, we have to make use of the fact that we're the best teams in the world at the games that we play. Mm-hmm. So that's what I did. So I started doing all the marketing. I started investing my money because I was the only one that had a proper job. I think that was just as Newman went into the army because he had to do national service. And yeah, I started funding the team, and what I was funding was mainly paying for the website and making sure we got to the lands. We didn't go to that many, but then it just grew and grew. Over the next couple of years, we won so much stuff. We started getting noticed by people. We were bumping into people like Intel. We were shadowing Four Kings, and they were the biggest team in the UK at the moment. At that time, sorry. Yeah. So we were bumping into the Intel guys, and I think it's probably 2005. I just said to them, I think it was WSOW. Was that a tournament? They were in
Maybe.
London. Steve-O was there. That's the only thing I really remember about that.
Yeah, dude.
He was completely out of it. It was very amusing. That was in Piccadilly Circus. Anyway, so I went up to the Intel guy and I literally said, look, this is what we do. We can do it for like 1/10 of the cost of what you're giving Four Kings. Just give us a try. And they did. They gave us some money, and that really helped us get to even more events. Until we went to an I-Series, Insomnia in England, and I bumped into one of the owners of Scan Computers, Didn't know who he was. Just chatting to him. We were watching their booth at the iSeries do whatever they were doing. I can't remember. And I just said, "Oh, these guys, they should do this, this, and this." A couple of weeks later, he gave me a call and he said, "I'm the boss of Scan Computers. I bumped into you at iSeries. I couldn't remember." And he said, "We want to sponsor you, but we're bringing XFX, Corsair, and somebody else." So we literally got 4 sponsors and quite a chunk of money on top of us. Then, literally 2 months later, Intel decided to sponsor us, and they gave us a really, really good deal. So that day we got the Intel deal. I literally came home from work and said to my wife, "We just got sponsored by Intel. I'm going to leave work and do this full time." And she was like, "Yeah, whatever, okay." And that was that. And we became a company. Well, we'd already become a company because we wanted to do that. We registered in the UK, but we weren't turning over hardly anything. I think the first year's turnover was 10 grand. And literally at that point, still our whole goal wasn't to like make money and be rich and whatever. We just wanted to win because I was still playing at that time.
Yeah.
And then Battlefield 2 came along, so that was the next step. And I played Battlefield 2 professionally at the time, if you can call it professionally. And again, we were still the best. And then jumping where we're going now, 2006.
Yeah, 2006. This is kind of an interesting period because, I mean, look, all us boomers keep talking about it. And obviously you were kind of heavily involved with the Championship Gaming Series when that came along, which for those who don't know, anyone listening to this, basically News Corp, that's the Murdochs, they saw an opportunity in esports as early as 2006 where they thought, stop me if you've heard this one before, they thought if they created, regional teams and completely fresh brands and threw $60 million into a 5-year plan, they'd be able to package esports in a way that was digestible for a television audience and essentially, grow the business. Now, what's interesting here is you're Mr. Dignitas. You've been one of its, you're a founding member. You're a founding player. You just played on the Battlefield 2 team that was like Team of the Year, in some awards categories. All of a sudden, you're being invited to come into, this new project and manage something called Birmingham Salvo. There was a lot of talk, because they'd done it in North America, about CGS buying brands. There was talk about them potentially buying Four Kings. There was talk about them potentially buying Fnatic. Sam Matthews turned that down. And so I wanted to ask whether or not it had ever kind of entered your mind to sell Dignitas to them as a brand. Had they ever made that offer? Was there ever any money on the table? And if so, kind of, how much and why did you walk away from it?
So I'll start 2006. So 2006, that's when I played my last tournament and I won iSeries with our Battlefield 2 team. We won the European Championships in clan base, I think. But in the practice, I was doing emails to Intel and I wasn't really paying attention to practice before this European final. And we get into the game and there's a point where somebody said, "ODEE, do the thing," and I'm thinking, fuck, what thing? I have no idea what you're talking about. I guessed, got it right, we won. After the game, I retired. And literally, it's probably a week later, I got an email from News Corp saying, "Hi, we're News Corp. We're thinking of doing a gaming league. We've heard all about you. Would you like to come and meet Rupert Murdoch's son at Sky?" So I was like, okay, all right, let's go have a chat. So what they'd done actually in News Corp, they did a test event, and it was actually Battlefield 2 that they used in 2006. But they used the American teams. I think the American team that won it was called Cloud9. I'm pretty sure they were called Cloud9.
Interesting.
Not the Cloud9.
Yeah, not the Cloud9.
Yeah. But the original one. So basically that happened, and then I went to News Corp, went to West London, went into the building, sat down at a big table with lots of people, and James Murdoch came in and he said, "So you're the revered ODEE." I wasn't good with words, still not good with words. I had no idea what revered mean, and I just went, I paused and I went, "Yes, hello." So luckily I guessed right. And no, there was never any talk of like Dignitas. It was just me. They wanted me to run one of the UK franchises. So at the time we were growing, we needed more money, we were getting bigger. So I was thinking, yeah, we could bring in some money here. If they pay me, I can stop paying myself from Dig, and then we got more money to do Dig. And then we get through the whole process. I can't remember at what point or when they said it, but they said, well, now you have to leave Dig, or literally they said you have to leave Dig. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. I said I'll move sideways and backwards and pretend I'm not there, but I'm not giving that up. No way.
Yeah.
So they kind of agreed. They didn't make a fuss about it. Basically, that's what we did. So I think we announced that Newman's taking charge. I never left. I was always there. And we pretended that I was just doing CGS.
Yeah.
And that was it. So 18 months for us of extra money, which meant that we could expand on Counter-Strike as we did, because I think we just got our first Counter-Strike team. Actually, 1.6 team. And then obviously CSGO at the time, wasn't it? No, not CSGO, CS Source.
Yeah, it was Source.
So we just, I think we expanded into both games. We've had a lot of players through Dig. I think it was like something like 1,400. Anyway, and then I was oblivious to pretty much most of the things in the CGS, as we've discussed before, you and I.
Yeah.
So I got in, and I was really up for this. I wanted to win it. Everything I do, I want to win. So I wanted to pick the best team. I was annoyed that I didn't get London, and they gave Sujoy London. That did annoy me, because I'm from near London, but
yeah,
never been to Birmingham at that time, apart from
for the CGS.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the first time I went. So yeah, so I got Birmingham, and I really enjoyed it. Literally, the first year we got top 4, got semi-final, and then the next year, obviously, we won it. And for me, it was just a fantastic professional job. I set out to get this team, and we got the team. We planned it perfectly, and it worked, and we beat everybody. But then it all went tits up, as we know. So. Yeah,
well, we can skip to that part. So obviously, I guess you were kind of insulated a little bit against, for a lot of people, it was like an apocalypse. It was over for them. Because they'd completely bought into CGS and couldn't conceive of a world where it collapsed. For you because you never essentially left Dignitas, I guess you just kind of walked it off, right?
Yeah, and I saw. Well, we did. We moved quickly to take as many as the leftover players as we could. So we brought back in people like Chris Bullard, the Counter-Strike team. So yeah, we carried on. It kept us going through the recession. Without that money, and I didn't just put it into Dig and spend it, we put it in the bank. So going through 2008, we had money in the bank to pay for everything until 2009, and that's when everybody's money ran out, and that's where probably the worst event we ever did or tried to go to was, I've said this before, I still can't remember the bloody land. It was in Denmark. We had 30 players there, supposed to have hotel rooms. Everybody was paying slowly at that time. We didn't have enough money to get the hotels, so we had to say, "Sorry, guys, you got to stay in the red rooms." So that was probably probably the lowest moment for me in esports.
Yeah,
but we got through it, and then Twitch came along not long after that.
Yeah, so 2010, that's kind of another phase of esports, and we bounced back from that global recession. And obviously, this is the era where everything starts getting leveled up because, YouTube's taken off. Twitch becomes its own thing, breaks away from just in TV. We've suddenly got streaming negotiations going on between other platforms like Owned. And obviously, we've got a raft of new games. League of Legends comes out in beta in 2009 and a sequel to the beloved, Brood War in the form of STARCRAFT 2. And this essentially, I mean, for me, it was very easy to conceive of a world where esports just completely dies in 2008. It felt very desolate and bleak. But all of these things happened at once in 2010 to essentially, get the paddles out and bring esports back to life. So how did all of this impact on Dignitas?
Yeah, so for us, we were lucky. We never lost any sponsors through the whole recession. Things were slow, that's for sure. But we had intel, we had creative. At one point, I think 2011, we had like 12 sponsors. So 4 Kings had fallen away completely by that time, really.
I managed them. I managed them at the end.
Yes, yes. So we had the whole UK. It was ours. But we had people in Sweden and Germany. So we had sponsorship from Razer as well from Germany. We had QPad in Sweden. And then as Twitch came along, I'd already decided we need to hit America. And that's what we decided to do. So the first League of Legends team that Dig had was terrible. It really was. We qualified for the first Worlds. I was standing there at DreamHack, watching the game, not understanding it whatsoever. Also standing there with Sam Matthews and his mum, and I was saying, Sam, you want to get that team over there, which is the first Fnatic team that he did actually sign.
Yeah.
And they were really good, obviously. So that didn't work out. So we went probably another 10 months without a League of Legends team, which was really annoying. But I didn't want to mess it up this time. I wanted to make sure we picked a really, really good team that we could actually do stuff with and actually impress sponsors with.
Yeah.
And it's thanks to Joe Miller and Demon again. In iSeries, they were sitting there on a break between casting whatever they were casting. And I said, guys, you're probably League of Legends. You're doing League of Legends. Who would you go for? And they told me that there's a team called Rock Solid. They look pretty good, a bit wacky, but they might qualify for IEM. So contacted them, said, yep, if you want to join, we can cover all the travel and everything. And that was it. That's how we ended up with that first team with Scar and Cutie.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously, at this point, League of Legends is rapidly emerging as the big game, and I know you've always been a team game kind of focused guy, but I just want to ask a little bit about StarCraft too, because you had some good players. You had Sio and there was a couple others on the roster. I can't really remember it. So yeah, Naniwar, obviously, yeah. Do you feel that you maybe missed the boat a little bit on StarCraft 2, or do you feel pretty in terms of all the European organizations, do you think actually you did pretty well?
So thanks for reminding me, because as you get older you forget this shit. We actually had a plan in 2009 for StarCraft 2. We knew it was coming. We had a list of 50 odd players that we were following. Select, actually, he was number 6 on the list. So we had a list of all of these players playing RTSs, and players that we possibly could get. So Select came, he was double world champion in, is it Age of Empires maybe? World Side of Games. Yeah. So he was on our list, and we knew he was Korean, and we knew he lived in America, which was perfect for what I wanted to do to get into America. Because my plan was literally, we had sponsorships from the UK, but a lot of their head offices were in America, so we were only picking up UK budgets, and I wanted to get the global budgets. Western Digital is a good example of that. So, literally, the Western Digital budget that we had at that time, times it by 10, that's when we got the global budget.
Yeah.
Which is, it just changes everything. It means and that's when salaries started kicking in. So Twitch had came along all at the same time. So StarCraft, League of Legends, Twitch, bigger sponsorship deals for us. It meant that we could get bigger players, finally compete with the big boys. But I still really didn't want to spend that much money on Counter-Strike at that point. We were one of the first teams to sign a Twitch deal. James Hardin, too good when he worked for Twitch, came up and said, "ODEE, do you want to sign with Twitch?" I didn't really understand it at the time because it literally just came out. I knew of Justin TV because I was watching Justin TV when Jason Lake used to stream to 20 people in his apartment when he was in CGS, which was fascinating.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I signed, and it really helped. But at the time, because Twitch were doing so much stuff, the eyeballs in esports just exploded. So it meant the marketing people were looking at it. We had viewers. There was a marketing case for every game now, because there was a community in every single game. So with StarCraft, we ended up with Naniwar. Eventually, he wasn't our first choice. Show and Select were, and we had a really good team. I think we had a quirky team. Show was European champion quite early on, so that really helped us. We went to all the MLGs in America. Naniwa, God, what a player to manage. He's one of the hardest players I've ever had to manage, and he'll
Yeah, hell of a character.
Yeah, but really good player.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun, but at times an absolute nightmare with him. He wasn't the worst player we've had, that's for sure. But the cool thing is, I think 2 or 3 years ago, I was in who was it? It was Rotterdam's stream, and I went in and said, "Hi mate, how are you?" And Naniwa was in there, and Naniwa typed in, "Odie, sorry for being an arsehole to you so many times." So he did apologise about 5 years later, so that was quite cool. But no, I thought we had a lot of fun with StarCraft.
Yeah,
we won a lot. We did some really good, like, because we'd started advancing what we were doing for sponsors, like deliverables. I was watching everything Alex Garfield was up to, copying a lot of it. So we were doing like videos for like events. We were writing to bands and asking them if we could use their music in our videos, and a lot said yes.
yeah.
I think I'm probably the only person that's probably the first person in esports to pay a license for music. So I paid for the Grain Shield music to be on one of our videos.
Right.
And it's a really good video made by Zachabas. So StarCraft for us was good. League of Legends was great.
Yeah, I also thought, people probably don't remember this, but I mean, you actually did give a leg up to UK talent as well. I mean, like Bling was, I used to love, having a beer with that guy, at events.
And he used to love having a beer.
Yeah, he certainly did, yeah.
But we did a talent search for him. So that
I remember that. That was so cool.
Yeah, so we came up with like ideas because we had sponsors like Dell and Intel at the time. Like if you came up with cool ideas, they would fund it. So the gamer searches that we did 3 of them, I think. Bling won the first one. Apollo, Sean Clark came to me once and said, "Odie," this is actually 2011. He said, "StarCraft 2 is coming out. I want to be a caster. I want to go to Korea. I want to learn from Artosis. I need help." So I went to Intel and Dell, put a case to them, and they paid for him basically to go to Korea and learn how to do what he did. And he went on to be one of the top casters, and he's still in esports now, working for ESL.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
But we did lots of great stuff. There's so many people that came through Dig, like where we gave them a leg up, or like a chance. Casters that have come through. There's so many people now. Even my ex-teammates. It's like Dogbert, for example, James Given.
Yep.
He's a community manager at CI Games now. Stuff like that I love to hear. So, but yeah, 2011 and 2012 were great. They really were.
Let's talk about League of Legends. Obviously, like, as you said, you picked up a team that was full of, beloved but quirky players who all went on to have, like, cult followings even after they left competition. Yet when the initial franchises came around for NALCS, you initially got rejected, which I think surprised a lot of people in the industry. So, what's your recollections about that?
Yeah, so that's after we were bought by the Sixers,
right?
So that happened then. So they didn't get it.
Okay, well, let's rewind then. So let's because I know this is always a bone of contention. The 76ers era Dignitas. That, I think, for many of like us OGs, like that's when like you never begrudge somebody that like built something like selling it. It was like when Hector, sold Optic. Yeah, it was a disaster, but also we got life-changing money. It's the same with like Complexity pairing up with the Cowboys. You want people like Jason Lake to have that money. Victor Guzens when they paired up with Curse. You want people like Victor to succeed. They're OGs, So when you sold to the 76ers, I was like, that's great for Mike, right? Like, he deserves this. Like, but also at the same time, it does seem to be the period where the wheels started to come off.
Yeah, it didn't go to plan because so the first offer that we had was for our LCS slot. The LCS wasn't the franchise bit at that point. But we had the team. We were in the league, and they came to us with an offer. At this point, this is when some investment money was coming into esports, so the salaries suddenly jumped triple in League of Legends for no reason whatsoever, apart from people were just paying more for no reason whatsoever. That was hard for us. Like, we didn't have enough money to like do that and do Counter-Strike and do all the other stuff that we were doing. It was just we were running out of money.
Yeah.
So when the Sixers first approached and said, "Look, we're interested in buying the team," like it's obvious that okay, how much? Then you've got to ask yourself the question, like, and this is one of the best bits of advice I've ever had, and for anybody that ever gets in a position for this, when you sell that team on that day, you've got to be happy with that money because that could be that's it. That could be it. And they offered us money. I knew how big they were. They owned the Sixers. They owned Crystal Palace. For me, it was absolute no-brainer to like go that route.
Yeah.
And I wanted to like get bigger and bigger and bigger. Still didn't particularly care about the money. I just wanted to like, okay, let's go to the next level. Off we go. Then circumstances just like kicked us in the nuts. It's like the LCS team got relegated.
Yeah.
That kind of threw a spanner in the works. And like, what do you do? It's like, oh, okay. So this was one of the big things that they were obviously interested in. So I had to think fast. So I went to Coast and I said, look, I've got this deal. Like, if you come in, you can be part of it. And they get what they want. And hopefully you get what I'm looking at as well. And we agreed a deal. And that happened. So then, obviously, they had to apply for the franchise, and they didn't get it. Yeah, surprising.
Yeah, well, so I mean, what do you have any insight as to why? Because you know the kind of archetype of who the 76ers are. That's what Riot said they wanted. They wanted big sports franchises coming in.
And they just bought the Washington Commanders, so they just all that. I honestly couldn't tell you. I at that point I was not in control, so I don't know.
What was it like, sort of going from being? Because I mean, I know they kept you on. It was kind of in an ambassadorial role, I want to say. I mean, I'm sure you still doing stuff.
I was doing stuff, but when you go from running everything top to bottom, like knowing everything and actually like trying to make the future happen, I knew that obviously I've got to like let them steer the boat. I knew that. I wasn't that naive. But I wasn't doing enough to keep me like sane. I think that's why I decided like I've got to go do what I'm good at. Otherwise, I'm just going to go nuts.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. So we did a deal. It allowed me to go anywhere straight away. And then fortunately, actually, no, it's actually quite worrying at the time. Like when you walk away from something like that for so many years, it's pretty scary. But I got 6 or 7 offers in the first 5 days, which were like mind-blowing. But then I got to talk to the Rec Global guys, and the way they spoke and their future, their vision, it's exactly what I was hoping esports would become.
Right.
So I joined them. Not in Rec Global anymore because we got bought last year. So now we're owned by a company called Infinite Reality.
Right.
And it's still mind blowing.
Yeah. So I mean, look, because it's so much history to kind of go over, and I didn't want to like take up too much of your time, but
no worries.
You know, let's talk about just the sort of the final moment where the penny drops, and you know, you decide, okay, this is it for me. Like, you know, what was the last straw? Because you know, I've been in positions like this where I've had to walk away from a project that I'm very proud of, and I have a lot of feelings towards, but I've never done anything for close to like, you know, 17, 18 years or whatever it was, you know, like I've never, you know, like never been in one place for that long, certainly never built anything that lasted that long. So I don't know, it must have been a wrench, right?
Yeah, I think the only thing I can really say is like when I realized I wasn't really part of the plan, like in terms of like making things happen, that's when I was like, it just hit me. It's like I think I'm too good at what I do to not be doing what I'm good at. So and that's simply it. I literally woke up one day and I said I'm done. On to the next one. And that was it. I think there's a few moments in my life that are pretty scary like that. But if you don't try something, you'll never know. Hindsight is probably I hate that word because it's so true. There's so many things I wouldn't have done. Like if I could have, I wouldn't have sold Dig at that time. I would have tried to stay a couple more years.
Yeah.
But literally, wife and family. I've got to think about them first. So yeah, so it was tough to leave, and it's weird like seeing the new logo, the other new logo, the old logo.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm enjoying Koi and London Royal Ravens too much at the moment, and all the other stuff that I do. So I'm glad it was a fantastic journey. Didn't end exactly how I wanted, but you only live once. You can't dwell on this shit. You gotta move on and just enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, don't do it. I've told so many people that for years. You got to take your own advice as well.
And look, I mean, the way things go in this business, I mean, I don't know. It's not. You could end up buying them in like 5 years from now or something.
That would be weird. It's like I still have that tattoo of the original logo. The good thing is they have changed the logo, so it's still my logo, and I don't regret getting that done because it changed my life. So, but who knows? Literally, who knows? I've seen so much stuff happen over the years. It's like every time someone says, "So what's happening in 5 years?" I haven't got a clue. Like now we're into the metaverse stuff, and that's until you actually get your head into understanding the metaverse, like I have.
Yeah.
It's mind blowing what's coming. Scary, but mind blowing.
Well, look, I know you've got things to do, busy guy. So,
yes.
To Johnny Gazer, I hope that gives you a brief kind of overview of the history of Dignitas, the various phases and entities. And of course, look, Dignitas still exists. It's just the guy that sort of created it all isn't there anymore. So, it's like being in love with a band, your favorite band, and they change the lead singer, which does happen from time to time. So it's entirely up to you whether you still want to be part of that band or not. Michael, really appreciate it as always, mate. And I'm glad that you're still around and active and doing cool things. The memory of those times with Dignitas, I'm sure for many, especially us UK kids, will last very long indeed. So thanks for your time today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.